According to the philosopher and spiritual teacher Alan Watts, the meaning of life is simply to be. We don't have to be anything in particular, and we don't have to do anything in particular. We just have to be here and experience life. This is something that I can subscribe to. But I also believe that there is room for a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to this. And therefore I think this warrants a discussion. Hello from Sweden, and welcome to Everyday Mystic, a gentle guide to your liberation. My name is David, and I hope that you're feeling well and that you're having a good day. Now, I tend to treat life as an open question. And just because I know something to be true, it doesn't mean that I know exactly what it means. One of these things is that at the absolute fundamental core, we are one with God, one with God's infinite consciousness, and therefore, by definition, there cannot really be anything that we have to do or be. But there are some details to this. For example, if you take the idea that some hold, especially in Eastern traditions, that we are already enlightened, which is also something that is implied by being part of God's infinite consciousness. But when we have this realization at the absolute depth of our experience, something profound also shifts. The first time that we really experience how infinite consciousness is looking out through our eyes, something fundamentally shifts inside of us. We know that infinite consciousness has always been looking out through our eyes, but there is a difference when we suddenly become aware of it. There are also some other aspects of the human experience. And I actually want to bring up the Bible a little bit now, because Watts was actually very fond of the Bible. He compared this realization that you just have to be with the Christian concept of salvation. It's no longer about having to do or be anything in particular to earn the favor of God. You have the favor of God simply for being here and being you. But the paradox is also that somehow our choices still seem to matter. We don't have to do or be anything, but there are choices that can lead to, for example, more meaningfulness and less meaningfulness. At least we experience it as such. And think about it. If it is true that what follows from that this world is an illusion is that nothing that we do out in this illusion matters at all, then there would be no point to us being here in the first place. Yes, maybe to realize that everything is awareness, but why couldn't we do that without having this human experience? We have also woken up in a very particular time. Whatever may be true about it, I think that a lot of people can sense that we have reached some sort of end point. And if you look at religions, look at different spiritual traditions and so on, a very common idea is that there is some sort of end point to everything. Now, I don't subscribe at all to the idea that we will see God raining fire down from the sky and condemning sinners to hell or something like that. I don't think that it is at all what this means. But I truly believe that the times that we are living in We are experiencing a fundamental shift at the very core of reality. And therefore, I maintain that we are here for a reason. But we are not here to get caught up in all of the events in the external world. No, the real process is happening on the inside. The real process is taking away our attention away from all of the things that try to pull us away from our insides and out into the physical reality. It's away from this identification with our thoughts and emotions, and instead into what is waking up on the inside, and ultimately this connection that we have with God on the inside. This oneness that we share with God and every other person. There are also other aspects to this. I talked a little bit about meaningfulness. And maybe these things are just arbitrary ideas, but there seems to be something to the idea that it's better to pursue connecting with other people, connecting with God, engaging in spiritual practices, doing something that we truly find worthwhile with our lives, as opposed to just living for empty sensory gratification or just hoarding money, hoarding belongings and so on. It just doesn't seem like all of this is value neutral. And I don't have any answer to this. I just want to make you think a little about what I am saying here. Maybe this is just my mind projecting values onto something, but I want you to think a little bit about the consequences of this. Because if truly nothing matters in what we do in the world, as I said, why are we even here? I think it's an interesting question. I was talking a little bit about this realization that this awareness has been with us all along. But there is also things that is happening on the inside. Energy blockages are dissolving, and the more we can stop resisting the present moment, the more we begin to realize just how much is going on the inside. How much power we really have when we don't go into this victim mode, when we don't try to force things to be any other way than they are. Then we find out that there is a higher flow that we can align ourselves with. And I think that there is a point to all of this. There is something about this shift from 3D to 5D that some say that we are going through in what is called the ascension process. There is something to all of this, but I don't know exactly what it means. And if you've been following my channel, I'm very careful to not say more than I actually have sufficient reasons for. I have not always been perfect with this. If I look in my past, just the past few years since I started this channel, I have drawn some too hasty conclusions. And that is a mistake that I'm doing my best to not repeat now. So something continues shifting. And there seems to be a point to actually align ourselves with this shift, instead of going against it, instead of ignoring it, instead of just going on doing things the way that we've always done. And another thing in all of this that I also find paradoxical is that I have had a very real experience of also having a personal relationship with God. I know some say that this is impossible because everything is consciousness and so on, and that is fine. But that very much is not my experience. My experience is that God communicates with us all the time through our experiences. We're just too busy being somewhere else than in the here and now to notice it. We're just too busy rationalizing away what is very obvious synchronicities. These meaningful coincidences that happen from time to time. So this is very much my experience. I cannot reconcile it completely with this experience of also just be pure awareness at the absolute fundamental core. And maybe there are some other details to this that I don't understand, that I don't know, that would make this different from what it appears to be. But for me, I have to go with what my experiences tell me. And the thing is that if I happen to be wrong about this, then it's okay, because it does seem to drive me in the right direction. And I am expecting that if I need to know something, because I'm fine with not knowing everything, with not understanding everything. And if I need to know something, I will find it out eventually. I can do my best to understand and try to acquire as much knowledge as possible and reflect on the knowledge and so on to try and figure out what is going on. But I am not going to draw conclusions that go against what my experiences tell me. And another thing that I've been talking about is that there is something to Jesus. Again, how do I recognize this, reconcile this with that everything is awareness? I don't know. But something is pointing me to Jesus, and that something very profound happened when Jesus walked the earth. When Jesus died on the cross and when he was resurrected, which there are good reasons to believe in, even if we cannot know this for sure, but I have looked into this quite a bit. But I'm also very much not in line with fundamentalist Christianity. If something even has just one little grain of fundamentalism in it, that is a serious no-no for me. I don't regard religion, spirituality whatsoever as a belief system. I don't care about having the right set of beliefs here. I want to understand what these texts are telling me about my experience, about the human condition, about the conditions that I am living under here in the world. So, are you following me? Why am I talking about this? Because the meaning of life is simply to be. You don't have to do or be anything. And yet there are things that seem to call on us. There are things that draw our attention to them. We have this whole inner struggle with ourselves, with coming to terms with who we truly are, as opposed to all of this acquired personality that we have collected throughout our lifetimes, through our interactions with society, with peers, with parents, with all of the cultural norms and values around us. And again, there seems to be a point in actually trying to figure these things out, even if the point of living is just to be. Also, a little bit back to the Bible. When people, especially in the New Testament, when people got the calling from God, it didn't seem to be so much an issue of whether they were going to get rewarded for it or not. It was just, I am being called to do something. Just like we are living in very special times now, and a lot of people experience a calling to do something. Maybe ultimately it doesn't matter. By definition it doesn't, but yet it does somehow. I'm still trying to figure this out, but I think that it deserves thinking a little bit about. To not just brush it off and dismiss it as unimportant. Why we are here in this particular time. So what can we do? First, observe yourself. Observe all of these little mechanisms that I've been talking about. See what you find out for yourself. Don't just take my word for this, but also be a little bit careful with drawing conclusions from your experiences. Be careful with what you actually know and what just seem to follow, or you've read it in some book or something. So be in the present moment as much as possible, because if there is something to this whole being thing, it is that if you are off somewhere in the past or in the future, you are missing out on your being in the present moment. And I mean, this is something that Alan Watts was trying to explain to people. He wrote several books and held lectures on it, so apparently there was something in this that he wanted people to grasp. And you can't really force yourself to want the present moment to not be different, to just embrace the present moment. But something that I've noticed is that you can actually direct your focus in a way where you're actually making the present moment more interesting than what you can acquire in the future. And the way to do this is spirituality. To wake up things inside of yourself so that you notice that there is something really profoundly shifting within. Then the present moment is not just the things that are happening to you on the outside. The present moment is how you choose to respond to the events and all of the things that are waking up within you. All of these things that you can actually also use as tools to respond in a more conscious manner. So spirituality helps also recognize that this is a natural process. But as I said, use self-observation, mindfulness, rituals, etc. Anything that you can do to help this process along. Not because you have to, but because you want to. You want to align yourself with this process. Because the world on the outside is going to get darker and darker for a while, until enough people wake up and start taking responsibility for their own role in this process. Again, it's not up to you, but your life, your experience will be much more rich and fulfilling as opposed to meaningless and painful if you align yourself with the process. Also, if there is a big takeaway from this, is that don't resist the resistance. Instead, go around it by just looking for everything in the present moment that makes the present moment exciting, and accept that there is this resistance within that is more or less like this Chinese finger trap. The more you try to pull, the harder the grip becomes. And finally, I want to conclude where I started. Namely, that at the absolute fundamental core, everything is part of God's infinite consciousness. And you are one with the infinite creator of the universe, maybe even multiple universes, maybe even an infinity of universes. Who knows? But for some reason, you've taken on extreme limitations. Because at the absolute fundamental core, you are limitless. But you've come down here into this physical body, become incarnated, and you have all of these limitations that you are facing right now. I think that this is something worth thinking a little about. Thinking about consequences for you when it comes to this. You are one with God and everything else. What does this mean to you? What are you going to do with your life when you know this? Carry this knowledge with you throughout the day. Reflect on it. think truly about what it means. And that's it for today. If you like this video, leave a like, leave a comment and share the video on social media and other places. All of it helps the channel to grow. And if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so YouTube always notifies you of new videos. And check out the description and the comment section for other things that me and my wife are doing. Especially check out my new store Trickster Saint, where you will find my own creative works. And other than that, just sincerely thank you for your time.